Oh, I got a good Facebook. Go ahead.
How you doing, everybody? Welcome with deep dives in the desert and so with sacred sites from
With Katie Mabrey.
Rains Mabrey.
Oh, he loves putting the reins in there.
I have it on my phone. It's
I prefer it that way. No.
And Phil. Phil, how do you pronounce your last name?
Flaskerud.
There you go.
Flaskerud.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so Phil's joining us. We're really excited to have him because he has a very unique skill set and
interesting stories Katie's been sharing with me as well.
So really happy to have him on. And
we just wanted to really quickly remind everyone that Johnny's book is now available on Amazon. It's in Kindle and paperback. So we want to share that with you. Johnny, we did a show about it, so make sure that you catch that. We had a live about it. And so we've already gotten some feedback from a few people that have purchased it. So we're really excited about that.
It's a nice quick read. Some did it like in one sitting, and they have
it's like 133 pages or something like that. So it's and then it's got a lot of codes and stuff in it for you to follow. And then I just want to remind you too that mine is also available on paperback and in Kindle. So we would love to hear your feedback. If you've read our books, please write a review for us, because we'd love to hear your honest opinion about each of our books. So we wanted to share
really
that.
Appreciate all the support on when we went live, and I talked about we first did the book launch, so everyone who was out there was really humbling. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks to everybody with that. And then we're going to we're back. So we wanted to have Katie introduce us to Phil. I've had the pleasure of being with Phil. We were at the Stupa in Sedona together, and we did a show there. And but Johnny, you haven't physically met him yet, have you? No. So.
No, I look forward to it too. I can't wait when I go out next time when we hopefully we'll see him at. You going to the Journey to Truth or any of the conferences coming up? So I'll see you there.
Yeah.
But,
so Katie, go ahead, introduce us.
Yeah. So I met Phil through Lily Nova's channel, and then we met in person at Journey to Truth last year, and then this summer I did a big long trip, and Lily joined me for a little bit of it. Of course, we've talked about it on Sacred Sites, but Phil was the friend that I met in Yellowstone. He was the guide in Yellowstone in the Grand Tetons, and we had such an incredible time out there. And so as I'm preparing to move to Sedona, Phil's also considering moving to Sedona. And so we were talking, I'm like, I'm really bored. Why don't you come hang out in Tulsa? And then we'll just head out to Sedona here in a couple weeks. So he decided to come through and hang out for a little bit. But I'll let you give some of your background. I think most everyone knows me.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Katie. And thanks for, allowing me to be here tonight. It's super fun to do this and something different for me. Well, I'm originally from the northern Midwest, but when I was 19 years old, I had to move out west. So I moved to Arizona, and we started, prior to that, visiting my grandpa out there. I fell in love with the Rocky Mountains. And so moving out to Arizona, started hiking and camping and mountain biking. And so teamed that up with how I grew up in the Midwest with hunting and fishing, and kind of the slower, the small town Midwest, with really beautiful countryside, but we didn't have the mountains. So anyway, Arizona really was my launch pad to the mountains, where I just really felt like myself and could be myself, obviously, in nature. But it was just something about being out in the western states. And we were talking today, I am planning on moving to Arizona, and that's a bit of a full circle, because I want to, and I think we're going to get into that tonight, but we are going to, offer kind of some outdoor and some nature retreats.
Yeah.
And then I'll do some other outdoor instruction type classes, because that's been my background for a good almost 11 years now, I think, or 10 years of guiding different types of wilderness trips from Colorado to
That was amazing. Was that Dobby?
Fully down.
Sorry, you
Fully
guys.
down.
That
Okay.
was Commander, a humongous
German Shepherd.
German Shepherd who literally pulled the whole table like that. He's cute. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Holy cow! Now
We're
he's
going to
hiding
talk
underneath
about
my-
animals tonight, and he knows it. He's all excited.
Oh my
Yeah.
God! All right, you're okay. Come here.
He totally had
Sorry. I think John scared because John jumped up so fast. He was like, "Ooh." You think we like abuse this dog or something the way he come here. Who knows what he was with though when before. But anyway, I apologize.
Yeah.
John's on his way back. I'm so sorry. Oh my God.
It was perfect for the show.
Yeah, because we're
But,
talking about
yeah,
animals.
so I've been able to have a career guiding different trips, whether it's an 8-day pack trip with horses, or I was a hunting guide for a long time, and but also as I'm moving away from some of that, and growing more spiritually, and kind of sending my energy in a different direction. And so I'm really looking forward to offering with Katie and I offering really a neat opportunity for like a outdoor retreat, and that's what's coming next.
Yeah, I've been
Sounds
talking
fun.
about
Yeah.
camping so much. I've even got Lisa interested in it. So
Which, if you would think like, oh, okay, but no. If you knew me, I'm like that prissy girl. That's like, is there air conditioner? Is there a shower?
do they have
I'm out.
Tempur-Pedics?
Yeah.
But I'm totally into it now. Like I'm excited about it. I can't wait. And if you guys are doing something like that, like believe me, we're going. That's it. Even Em was talking about wanting to. She's so bummed, by the way, that she's not here tonight. She would have been able to make it if we were doing it, yesterday. But today she had to work, so she was like, no, because she's been wanting to get back on. So
we'll do it again.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, and also, I wanted to ask you is, do you think that, which I'm sure you're going to get into more about your story, but I was just curious if you feel like your time out in the wilderness was the reason or the catalyst for your spiritual change and your spiritual, awakening? Like, do you feel like that just being out there did that for you?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I really can't see it any other way. And you know what? It was probably a lot of little things that I wasn't even noticing, but it was a couple really strong physical like experiences that I had, and one being with Sasquatch, and we'll get into that. Yeah, I mean that having an experience in broad daylight with a being that isn't supposed to be real. It wasn't something I was out looking for, right? And so for me, that was a big awakening. That was in August of 2018, when I was face to face with one. So yeah, that's just experiences like that. It really catapulted me and yanked me from living more unconsciously to living more conscious. And yes, just reaching for different books in the bookstore, right?
So how is that if you seeing experience that type of experience in the daylight, like you said, not expecting it? What is that?
We should let him tell this whole story.
Yeah, what is that feeling like?
Gosh, well, it's the last thing you're thinking. I'll tell this story, but I'll start here at the end. It's the last thing that you're thinking is going to happen, or when you see something like that, it's really hard to know what you're looking at and being kind of stay in a kind of a calm,
grounded
In the present. Yeah.
because
They're like surreal.
oh my gosh, we've all heard about people who have these experiences, and it's can be very fearful, and they can put fear, or they can put a calmness into somebody, kind of really at will. And
so really quick, I don't want to interrupt you too much, but I need all the details. So I need to know where you were, when this was, what were you doing, who was with you, like give me all the deets.
Yeah. So I was a hunting guide in Idaho in the fall of 2018, and you can go on Google Earth or Google Maps right now. If you click in Edwardsburg, Idaho, there's no year-round people that live there, but there's a ranger cabin and an airstrip and a couple other cabins, right, that people can go in the summer and fall. Or if you want to go there in the winter, it's on a snowmobile.
I was gonna say it's gotta be freezing.
But it's a town, I think it's 2.5 or 2 hours on a gravel road to get there to Edwardsburg. And so there's a cabin there so we had a lot of horses. That's what we were using to guide, and hunters would come into Edwardsburg, and we would get them on a horse with their luggage and ride anywhere from 3 hours to 20 hours to camp, to our camp that we already had set up. They're canvas tents. There's a cook there waiting. It's steak and eggs. These aren't cheap. An elk or a deer hunt, say in Idaho, can be $4,000 to $8,000 and more. So I say that because my hunters or my clients that would come in, they pay a lot of money to trust me, not only to keep them safe, right, and alive, but to harvest the correct animal. And there can be an animal that you're looking through binoculars from 600, 800 yards away, and you have to be able to measure if they have, not only enough, say, a legal bull, he's old enough and big enough that he's legal to harvest. And there might be his brow tine horn has to be 5 inches long. That's, and you have to judge that. Wow. To whether you go harvest that animal. And so as a guide, there's a lot of trust in a hunting guide, because that's a felony. That's jail time if you harvest an illegal animal. So I say that because I wasn't misconfusing what I was seeing when I had my experience. So
got a sharp eye, another way.
So we're in August. It's a week before the hunters were going to start coming in, and so every day we're packing hay and tents into our backcountry camps. And so we have the horses, kind of staged at the trailhead, and we'd go, if we weren't taking a pack train into camp And a pack train is me on my horse with like 4 or 7 mules behind me, all loaded with gear or hay. And so you leave Edwardsburg, and we would take a 4-wheeler, like 30 minutes up a deactivated mining road. So just an old road. And then you got to a trailhead. So Tess was she was our wrangler, she was our cook, and a wrangler meaning she took care of the horses for us. And so it was her and I a week before the hunters were going to start coming, and we're hanging out with the horses, and we're making sure they have food and water. And so we grab our sandwiches, we walk away from the horses up this road to where there's this little opening. It's a rock slide. The forest is so thick there, and you're up in the mountains. You almost have to go out of your way to be able to see anything. So that's why we walked up this trail 10 minutes to this kind of a mini rock slide that was 30 yards long, 80 yards long, 30 yards wide. And we're sitting right in the middle of it. And so at this point, I'm sitting down, and Tess is, to my left, maybe 10 feet or so, not looking at what I'm looking at. And I'll never forget, this was, 7 years ago, August of 2018. And I can still remember this like it was yesterday. And yeah, we hear that a lot. But so I look up, and as I look up in the middle of that rock slide, there's a group of 5 mature pine trees. But around those trees, there's just rocks. And there's a break in the forest. And I look up, and I'm locked eyes with, from the waist on up, so I can see the head and the shoulders and the waist of just a extremely large human shaped mass, very dark colored. It was in a shadow, he was standing, or she was standing in a shadow. And so that's why I didn't see like the whites of its eyes, because they're in a shadow. And boy, so here's what my brain starts doing as a hunting guide and somebody who grew up in the outdoors. I'm eliminating what it is. We're surrounded by wolves. We're surrounded by bears. We're surrounded by moose. Moose are huge. Elk, deer. The first thing that registered was a black bear must be climbing this tree, right? Because it's so high up on this tree that I'm seeing this head and shoulders, the top half of a man.
Wow.
Wow.
And just staring at me, I couldn't see his eyes. But he's locked out. We're locked eyes. And I have some theories of what was real, of why. We can get into that if we want, but why he did that or whatever. But so I'm eliminating what it is, and maybe a second goes by, and now I'm on my feet. And I never took my eyes off this being. And I said to Tess, I'm looking, there's something down there, and I'm going down there. That's what I said. Because at this time now, maybe 2 seconds have gone by, literally. I had no hesitation. I'm very curious, because there's nothing out here. And at this time, I'm realizing, no, it's not a bear climbing the tree. It's probably, I've said 15 yards, which, 45 feet. which is not far in broad
Far enough.
daylight. Yeah, 45 feet is. I'm looking the other
Yeah.
side of your house.
Yeah.
And so,
Not that far.
yeah, something this big. I mean, it's just like.
Yeah,
So
probably
we
seems so
I'm
much
very
perfect.
activated right now. Yeah, it's hard to get it out.
We have a question for you too, really
Yeah.
quickly on the screen.
Yeah. Did it make any sounds like a grunt, scream, or talk gibberish?
Well, yeah, the next sentence is the one from behind us did, and it gave
Wow.
us what I can describe now, well, a language, but it was you could say a light, we would know it as a light language.
Okay.
And extremely, extremely loud. Not a scary, or obviously not a scary. It was a language, and it was a speaking, but very loud and fast, and gosh, wild. But so the day before, I'm walking down the trail, and out of the blue, I start speaking and I mean this with all due respect, I started talking, and I couldn't really hold myself back, but I started kind of speaking like a Native American would sound. Now I know I was doing light language.
I've done that.
This has taken me a long time to connect these dots, by the way. So I started that like the day or two prior to this happening, and I continued doing that even up until minutes before this experience. Very odd, but when you're in the very, very remote wilderness, I mean, I was just speaking. I'm very close with Tess. I should explain that. We were dating actually at the time, and we had known each other for over a year. So, right, we're very comfortable with each other at the time. And so I'm speaking this light language before I knew anything about light language. And then next thing I know, so here we are. I'm looking at this Sasquatch face to face. I stand up. I'm headed right to him. I'm realizing it's not a bear climbing a tree. I don't really care. I'm still not thinking Bigfoot.
Mhm.
Not thinking. And I grew up watching the shows and thinking or wondering if it's real, right? But I'll rewind again. This is probably confusing, but the year prior, when I was guiding in the area, weird things were happening, and I asked for it. I asked for a face-to-face daytime sighting of whatever's going on out here, and forgot all about that until this day. And listening to you talk about your book a little bit, John.
Mhm.
We all know manifestation, and that when we speak, it can be very powerful, whether it's words, numbers, everything.
Mhm.
So so I stand up, I take one step to head towards this giant thing, and as I do that, Tess looks down at him, and when she does that, he goes like this, and he moves and hides behind this tree next to him. At the same time, from behind us, this light language just bursts out of thin air. But there was we were leaning against a steep incline because it was an old logging road, like I said. So an old dozer at one time went through in the middle of this rock slide, making this. And so we had that steep ditch behind us, maybe 10 or 12 feet tall, not very high, but right at the top of that 10-foot, right behind us, the pine trees started. And kind of, I call them Christmas trees, the younger pine trees. you can't see through them, and we're looking up on a bank. And so there was another one right there.
Was it just as big or the same size, or was it bigger? Smaller?
We stopped. Tess was looking where I was. I was taking my second step, shooting right towards this thing as this happened, and we both just stopped, froze, and we looked. There was nothing there. We couldn't see anything. And this was such a loud noise. I've described it once as, with Tess's help, do you know what a xylophone is? A wooden instrument?
Yeah.
If somebody went zoom down a xylophone at the same time clacked 2 quarters together. See, can you kind of now turn that into a light language, like a pattern?
Interesting. Super
loud, right in your ear. And so now I'm starting to realize something's out of whack. Something's not normal with this situation.
Just got light language from a Sasquatch. No big deal.
Yeah, I'm still not thinking Sasquatch. Tess never saw what I was looking at. Just because
I was like, what didn't I think was going to happen today?
Repeat that, please. So Tess never saw it?
Where she was sitting to my left and like 10 feet away, because it was down a little bit of a bank, a slope.
Yeah.
In that grove of trees. And here's my thought. I saw this thing next to the tree. I'm like, oh, is that a black bear climbing a tree? But we had been sitting there for like 10 minutes. And that group of trees, like 5 big pine trees, was in the middle of the rock slide. No animal would have, I'm not trying to, explain to you guys that, no, it wasn't an animal. I'm just saying this was going through my brain. Like, no, that's not a wild animal, because why would he'd be creeping up on us right now if it was? Yeah. Because he would have had to cross that rock slide to get to where this Sasquatch was the whole time. And so it goes deeper than just me asking for it the year before. I've got a very deep connection with Sasquatch. I know now, right? And so it goes deeper than me just asking for that daytime sighting, but me asking for it, made that happen when it did. Yeah. But, it was always going to happen or something, right?
Well, I wonder if it's your, over the last decade or so, your love for being in the wilderness, right? Being a guide, treating everything with respect, probably making sure the people who you're guiding are treating the elements with respect. And so when you look at it, if that's where their portal is, where they're coming in and out, and you would think that you would be the one to probably get a real cool experience with it, or them come out to you knowing that you're going to treat them with that same respect, that they don't have to thump you.
Or scare me out of the county.
They're like, this guy knows how to take care of our home properly.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in
I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, you're right on, because the year prior in 2017, that was my first year guiding back there. And to that camp, we rode 42 miles on horses to get to the camp.
Wow.
That's how remote it was. There is sign. This is in the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness area, kind of north central Idaho. And that Frank Church is so remote. The natives there's still things right where they left them.
Wow.
And it's very, very special.
Yeah. See, just the name of that, I wouldn't go. No return.
River of No Return. Wilderness area. Yeah, and it's a wilderness area, so no man-made anything is allowed. You can't even ride a mountain bike through it.
Wow.
It's walk or horse. And there's a couple remote airstrips in the middle of the Frank Church, and that's where the hunters would fly in, or fishermen, So I've guided fishing too, but so anyway, your point The year prior, I was starting to, I wasn't awake, but I've always kind of operated a little different, right? A lot of us have. We're different. But I would see things that weren't natural. Most people would walk right by, and not only would I notice it, I would spend time there with that. One example, we'd have a foot of snow. I'd be there from August 9th sometimes August 9th, as early as that, and always until the 22nd of November. Wouldn't leave. And so anyway, we'd have a foot of snow in the towards the end of September. And so I'm in dead of winter. We're real high up in the mountains. There's a foot of snow. And in the mornings, we would let the horses free range every night, and we'd put bells on the mares, the female horses, because the male horses hang with the female horses and the mules hang with the horses. So if you put bells on the female horses, you got everybody in the morning. They'd free range.
Just like humans.
They could go anywhere every night. And but if you had good food and water nearby, they wouldn't leave. And so every morning at between 3 and 3:30, I'd get up. Usually wouldn't even bring a headlamp. There's wolves howling. If there's a quarter of a moon or bigger, you don't need a headlamp. And by that time, I practice not using one, right? We've lost that sense of our night vision. But anyway, so there'd be a foot of snow and a fresh couple inches, we'll say. And here'd be the horses down the hill in some ravine, and up kind of overlooking, or maybe you'd say watching the horses, there would be, not near any trees, there'd be a pile of freshly broke off spruce boughs. So if a spruce tree or a pine tree, if you break off a branch, that's a bough. That's a spruce bough. Bough. If I'm saying it right, or if I'm pronouncing it good, but they'd be in a perfect circle, stacked up a foot and a half tall on top of the fresh snow. Here's the thing, no footprints around, no spruce trees around. So these supernatural things that was happening, and I wasn't just walking by. I was investigating, like I said, very curious. There's nothing out there, I thought, that I didn't know. Not to be arrogant, but I mean, I grew up
the woods,
running alone in the woods. And
so let me ask you a question about that, if I can. Talking about seeing things that are supernatural and mentioning the fact that, there could be not footsteps and things like that. But when people that have firsthand accounts of seeing them, many times make them sound like they are, material dense beings. They don't sound like they were ethereal looking or kind of see-through or coming in and out of anything. They seem like they're full density beings. And so I'm curious what you think is, the reason for that. And I've heard people saying that they can kind of move in and out of this density and kind of go into something else. Do you feel that there are different types or species of these beings? Do you feel that these beings just have certain abilities? What's your take?
Yeah, a couple things there for sure is I believe, and I've heard, some have chosen to be more physical almost 100% of the time, but they still have abilities that allow them to, if there's a hole this big in the side of the mountain, they can go in it, like for winter. right?
Mm-hmm.
They are very they've chosen the more physical path and live like very advanced Native Americans, or very we probably don't know how advanced Native Americans were. Very, 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 very native like, when they have the ones that have chosen to be physical most of the time, but they still have those abilities. You know, I think a lot of them still have those abilities, or all of them, where they can step into the mountain or into that cave, right? Because it'd be tough, even the physical ones. It'd be tough to kind of to not walk up on their hangouts, right?
Yeah.
They're very physical, but and they still move around, and they'll walk on their tippy toes. It's to not leave tracks. They'll cover their tracks in a lot of different ways. It's very incredible.
We saw an interesting track today.
And it was just the toes. But
where were you, Katie?
The Keystone Ancient Forest in Oklahoma. It's just a little northwest of Tulsa, like 30 minutes from Tulsa. And we did a little hike. And what's interesting when you were asking about the portals and dimensions, so we walked up to this area, and I think it was pretty close to when we found the footprint. We came up to this area, and Phil kind of stopped, and he's like, I'm feeling something weird. And then I was like, I feel like I'm feeling like a portal or an access between dimensions here. And then Sasquatch kind of let us know that they were there and kind of working on us or whatever. And so just like, even when you asked that question, I was like, man, I felt a portal right there when the Sasquatch appeared to us. We didn't see him with our eyes today, but you could definitely feel him.
Yeah. And so they can maybe perhaps, and in Oklahoma in particular, a lot of these states, they are very physical most of the time, or quite all the time. And they interact very physically, to let you know they are there in a lot of these states, especially Arizona, but all the states. So
I want you to really quick. I want you to come here where I took Katie, because I'm really interested to see what kind of energy and stuff you get from that, and feel. So we need to make that happen too. For sure.
Yeah, because there was a couple of structures that we saw. We were talking with Katie about it too. It's like these trees. I don't know how they were bent, but in such a beautiful arc. They were perfect. And how the structures were, and
then there were some that were all just like made. They almost looked like a wooden tiki, but they were
these were like log. These were like, you're not going to pick them up. Like these are good size, like solid. A good diameter. And they were like bent, but not broken and long. Yeah, it's just so
We found a really cool stone honeycomb looking structure in Iowa the other day. I mean, he sees structures all the time.
Well, they're all over the world, and there's no you could have and I've heard this many times. You could have an interaction with a Sasquatch, and then immediately get in your vehicle or in a plane, fly to the middle of your city, go in your apartment, and they can drop a marble out of thin air. Or they'll let you know they're still with you in the physical. And so we call it worldwide. There is no separation, right? So they're finding these structures and these arches everywhere, all the countries, all the states. And so there's something there. I've heard a lot of different meanings for those structures, and we could get into that a little too. But what I was going to finish answering Lisa's question. So a lot they've actually chose that they want to be more physical, but there's some that are with more spiritual, and they'd be mostly in orb form is how we would, interact with them.
Purple and green.
All the colors. Yeah.
Just wondering.
See this thing behind me? Yeah.
Yeah.
All the colors. Yeah. Here's the, yeah. And just so I don't forget, Sabe, a lot of native tribes would call them Sabe. Some native tribes have called them Sasquatch. They, I lost my train of thought.
You think they like to go by Sabe?
Yeah.
Or...
No, you said they get there's more beings out there, right? And then Sasquatch Sabe gets mistaken for, say, a dog man or one of these crawler types or whatever. Somebody sees something huge and hairy. Dogman's very real. If that's new to our fans, whatever. That's very real. They aren't so love and light. I call him Dogman. A lot of people do. Think of a werewolf. That's very real. And so there's these other beings out there. People might have a really scary encounter and Sabe gets blamed for it, right? But also, so remember that. Also, the Greys have, and Reptilian Draco, they've created a Sasquatch, something that looks just like it, but isn't of, the light necessarily. And we've had, kind of our deep dark military has been taking out Sasquatch for a lot of years, and a lot of people in the community, they won't tell you where they have their Sasquatch experience because they don't want our military or whoever to come kill those Sasquatch. Has there been some of that? Yeah. Is it still happening? I don't think so. I think the bad Sasquatch, say the last 10 or 20 years, are the ones that are getting taken out. And kind of the fake ones or whatever. And any bad rogue dogmen, there's werewolves. It's all real. A lot have been created underground in areas like Montauk. And
it's like Georgia, Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah.
That keeps popping in my head. Some of those creations of weird cryptids.
So anyway, yeah.
Appalachia is a lot of crazy stuff, I think.
When you're speaking of these other beings, are we speaking solely of like cryptids, or are we speaking of other? I remember Katie telling us a story when she was traveling and she was seeing this being that was like a deer.
It was more like an elemental type.
Yeah. And so are you talking about things of that nature, all of the above? Or are you talking mostly about cryptids when you're out in the national parks?
All of the above. Yeah. And if you're out in a certain area or a state, there might be a being there that isn't on the East Coast, right? So there's different things in different places.
That was my next question is what?
Yeah.
What are you
just
finding?
what I've gathered,
Yeah.
I've been growing up, I was into Sasquatch and finding Bigfoot when that first came out. I was probably in high school and knew it was silly, but also interesting because the people that were on that show were really telling their stories.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, what's going on here? And then, even in 2012, heard like a wood knock, and I was like, well, wait a second, that was weird. After we were doing a wood knock, or we were asking for it back in the day when a lot of people were out doing the Bigfoot thing, but it had been like 4 years since I'd even thought of it, right? When 2018 hit and I'm looking at one. That's what, and it wasn't until like a couple days later when I kind of realized what happened. And then, because Tess wasn't as affected by me. She wasn't affected as much as I was.
I think they can, I mean, it's, like we talk about, the ships can be frequency specific, like you are the only person supposed to see that.
Mhm.
The more talented Sasquatch can do that too.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
what about so when you look at the range of what's out there, right, from the Sasquatch that are, say, light beings, or they're good energy, positive energy, and then you go all the way to the other side, or right, well, is it the same, like if you're looking at, say, a werewolf? Are they good and bad, or those are just, you got to watch yourself?
Mhm.
Like, how do you know? Is it just a feeling you're getting, or something that you're seeing? Or because if you're curious and you're starting to move towards one, like, how are you mitigating your risk?
I just feel like saying this. There's people that have lived for generations, their grandpa, their dad, and now them, out in rural United States, that have lived with these dogmen for a long time, and with no problems. And so it's odd. Same with werewolves. Werewolves and dogmen, a lot of them they're created. Maybe they weren't always. Maybe they were here always. But our government, or whoever, they've created these things, and they're tracked. They're all tracked. And if a dogman goes rogue, or a werewolf, they will get taken out. And they have relationships with their handlers in these underground facilities, and they have feelings, like, especially werewolves. They're very smart, and they're like you see on the movie, and I have never seen one. I'm just dozens of dozens and dozens and dozens of stories and interviews I've listened to in the last 6 years or 7 years is they aren't all made up. Everything lines up, and only now am I really ready to even talk about this, because I'm so confident. But no, if anybody's listening, I haven't been face to face with a werewolf, but I'm telling you, and a dog man, they can haunt, you could see, there's been a lot of, say, kids look through their window in their farmhouse, and there's a dog man staring at them. Then you hear a lot that they're kind of have bad luck, and they're kind of depressed for a long, they can attach to some negative stuff to you. However, I will go freely anywhere, day or night, middle of the night with no light, to somewhere where, say, somebody just saw a dog man or a sabe, and with no fear, because they've always been there. And that's what I realized. That's what we all should realize. Or there's a lot of people that have seen these things, and they will not step out into the woods or go camping ever again. And that fuels me to speak openly about these things, because it's ruined a lot of people's lives. And if that would have ruined me in 2018, 3 weeks later, I quit, and Tess and I flew to New Zealand. My world was flipped upside down, right? If you can think about this, somebody who grew up in nature and is a hunting guide and has not scared of anything other than, I'm very respectful if there's a grizzly bear, but not scared of anything, know everything that's out there. And then this happens.
Yeah.
That could have, and it's ended people. It's ended their passion. They've ended their lives, whatever the deal is, it's happened. And that's very real. I don't think it was ever meant to happen to me. I have a path, or, here I am. I want to help spread this word. There's many of us even in this Sasquatch community, many hunting guides that are opening up, or military guys, policemen. The word is spreading, and I've commented a lot in YouTube videos over the last few years of the Great Awakening is going to be larger than anybody can imagine, because I'm coming in at it from this angle. Sasquatch woke me up, not the fake news. Right? I was woken up in the real, what I call the real world, from a very physical being that I've been sharing the space with all this time, and now they're showing me lots of things, but also they're showing me that no, they are the masters. That was humbling. All these things. It's just, it's hard to, yeah. There's so much around it.
It's exciting about getting to learn from them, though.
Yeah. If you had to say, now that you know the kind of things that you're looking at, how many encounters, physical encounters, would you say that you've now had?
Well, my mind goes to this, and I've said this before. They did that for me in 2018. You know, I asked for it. I've asked again. What if they would have, every time I ask, they give me something, throw something at me, throw something next to me, speak, step out in front of me, and what if they would have given me that all this time? Would I have continued working so hard on raising my vibration, going down this path, watching all these videos, just trying to wrap my mind around this? I've set my life up. I'm very fortunate to not only work in nature, but I have a lot of off time during the winter, and I am on a nature walk multiple times a day. And so would I have continued this? And I'm not out there looking for anything. I'm way past that. 2 years ago, I was still, maybe 3 years ago, I was probably still like, trying to figure out how I could get them to show themselves again or something. But now, no way. Katie and I got the feeling today at the same time. I had a rush. It felt like a light wind went into my body, and it kind of like felt like a scan. And I was like, oh, and I acknowledged it. And then a few moments later, that Sasquatch just kind of came into my mind and said, that's us. We're here. We're running I kind of got the word running like a little scan. That's probably just the only word that I could, that we could communicate with each other. They ran a little scan on us. They already know us. When one knows you in Montana, if you go to Arizona and a Sasquatch is around you, he will be able to gather that information from the other Sasquatch another state away. The information's still there, everything about you. And so, and I guess that goes back to when that one stepped out in front of me. That wasn't random, obviously. He knew me. He knew everything about me. Right? If that makes sense a little bit. But
yeah. That's what's been really cool is like I remember the first time we met the ones in Arkansas, they introduced us to the ones in Illinois, and then the ones in Illinois introduced us to the ones in California. I was like, man, these guys really do. They can speak anywhere.
Yeah. And so I've been sitting back and watching even people, even Lily, and have these interactions, and she hadn't even met me yet. And she's going over what happened to her, and that totally, adds up to what has happened to me. And so for her and Katie to have that experience is where they're in Arkansas, and the Illinois Sasquatch know them from Arkansas. That just is kind of, makes me really have, doubt isn't even the right word to throw. I have no doubts obviously anymore, but yeah, it's
Understanding him on a deeper level.
yeah. So
Have you had?
to go back, yeah, well, anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, have you had, I know when we were in Sedona, you and Emma had seen some elementals that were there when we were recording. Other than that, though, do you see like elementals when you're out? What other types of beings that most people miss do you feel like you see being in the national parks?
Yeah, and that's right. I was going to finish answering that. So I don't get those visuals.
Okay.
That hasn't, because the way I am, and I know myself, we all know ourselves, I needed to work, I need to believe, I need to feel it in my body. I don't need anything, but that's just the word I'm choosing right now. But that's what they've been giving to me. Not where I see, an or a gnome or a little person. They're all out there. It's all very real. Here's what I see. And this is how they've communicated with me, something that is out of place, right? And whether it's a rock that's,
he found 4 rocks out of place today. I was like, we're in the woods. How did you
on a footprint that was just the toes, but as we both got down and studied it for a few minutes, we could see what it was. A Sasquatch crossing this trail. He had, all it was were his toes, but he was so heavy, had so much pressure that when he pushed off, the dirt, really hard packed ground was totally like, pushed back like 3 inches, rocks. And so it's those things. But in the structures, back in 2018 and 2019, when I'm really trying to, get a bit of a grasp on, is this all spiritual? What is going on? And so I would go to these structures, and in the middle of winter again, and I would even take a video, and I would take a video of the structure, everything around it, what footprints were there, whether it was just mine or some deer or whatever, video it. And that would be after dark the night before. And then I would wake up right at, around daylight or whatever. Multiple times I've recorded this. There would be maybe a fresh little layer of snow fall overnight. Whether there was or wasn't, didn't matter. I would walk over to that structure down the trail. The structure would be changed. That was them showing me, yes, we're here. Yes, we're not all fit. Don't have to be physical. You're not crazy. So I would go out, the structure would be changed, but there would be no footprints around.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
That makes sense. And so that's how they started to give me some direction. And that kind of answers, your earlier question too, is what are they giving me when I'm out and about and in nature? It's those little things. And you know what? Near these big, huge, awesome structures that we find everywhere, if you look close enough, you might find a mini structure, and it'll be super cool, tiny little structure. And it's like, okay, that's we'll call them the little people or the trolls or, elves, whatever, or gnomes, or the fairies, the elementals.
Phil can teach you how to walk through the woods and find all of this. It's amazing.
Cool.
And I go right to it, and I go right to animals, and animals come right to me. It doesn't stop.
I've learned a lot about how to.
And I go
Find
straight to
different
these,
things.
structures. I go straight to all these things.
Well, you know what I heard, Phil, that I thought was really interesting. That saying that, like, if you see a wolf print, and you can kind of go and you can kind of feel the intention of the kind of right, like the intention of the animal.
Oh
where
yeah, I was
Oh.
telling them about the tracking.
yeah, that's
More
pretty
than the
wild.
intention of the animal, I can see the animal
Hmm.
and know the intention and how it's feeling, right? I get a visual of that animal. We all can. And a good way to practice it, if something else resonates, you could go sit next to a track and get a visual of that animal. You don't got to get down next to it and put your hands over it. We like to, throw that stuff in there because it looks good, probably. Even though I've never done this in front of anybody besides when I first learned that I could do it. There's a group around me, and me and another person did it. There was a bear track in sand in the sand dunes, Oregon Sand Dunes State Park. It's right on the Oregon coast. And I'm there with a group of students and teaching tracking. And we come up to this bear print. And so I had read this from Anna Breitenbach. She's from South Africa. She does animal telepathy. She's the one that kind of her famous story is there was a black panther or jaguar in a big cat sanctuary somewhere overseas, and this cat was so dangerous nobody could feed it. They brought Anna in. This was years ago, and the cat's name was El Diablo, and that's why that cat was so mad. She read that, and her dream was to come to America. And she did. And she went to Washington to the school called Anaki. And now it's called the Wilderness Awareness School. And I spent a year and a half there. And I went there because she did in the 90s.
Wow.
And anyway, I went there just a few years ago. But while she was there, she put her hands over this track of an animal that she had never even seen before. And she put it over, and she, with the whole class around her, she identified that animal and named the.
Uh-oh, we froze.
Well, it
Well,
looks like they froze. But Ashley's question here is Spirit the Panther. I love that story. I rewatch it regularly. That's a. We gotta see what that is.
yeah, and then Zach is on there too. Well, I'm hoping that they're gonna pop back
Yeah.
on. If they don't, we can see if she can kind of go in. Let me reach out to her.
Yeah. So
Let me reach out to Katie.
we'll see if they get back on. Yeah. See, Victor knows right away. See, Sasquatch may have froze it. We got a code for that, Victor. Put a numerical code in.
Let's see if they pop back on. Hopefully they do.
Yeah. But isn't it crazy with what experiences to have,
I know.
and then to be comfortable enough to come out and talk through it is pretty amazing. So that's, I don't know really. Well, I'm, like I said, I'm a city person, so I don't know if I was walking through the woods and I see, you see a 15-foot or a 12-foot, however big they are, Sasquatch. I don't know if I'd be taking steps towards it.
The interesting thing about this too is that the people that seem like they're around this stuff more and more, those are the people that lose their fear about it. Where somebody else who maybe didn't have those experiences, and then you hear about them or something like that, you're like, that's scary. I don't know if I want to do that, but it's the people that are kind of in that and around that regularly. Those are the people that seem like they're able to kind of shed that somehow. And
Yeah. No,
move
what
through
I
it.
think, I think just like when we talk about how we're intuitive, your friend Jen is there.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jen. But I also think that it's, I think they have that intuition on, right away with us. So they know if we're fearful, they know they know to stay back because they don't know how we'll react. But they also know if we have a malintent, that they definitely going to stay back. And sometimes that's maybe when there is that confrontation that usually ends up bad for humans. But then also, then if they're being tracked, then it's just a lot of confrontation, which it's never a good thing. But I think that intuition that we have, I think they probably have it in spades, being on a kind of a different level. So they know, and Phil's walking around with not a stitch of fear in him, which probably gives them comfort to appear to him and feel comfortable to do that.
So she just texted me back. She said she's seeing everything's frozen. So I'm asking her if she can pop back on. And then she's saying her computer's going a little crazy. So we're going to give her a minute, see if they can work it out. And then if they can't work it out, then we'll go ahead and end the thing. Why don't you show your book again? And then you can show mine too if you want to. Okay. And we'll just give them a minute to see if they pop back on, because I think Stephanie's right. He was getting ready to say something cool.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss it.
So this is the book here that I did. It's some of the feedback I'm getting from when we launched it is that it's a really nice, easy read, which is really how I really intended it, because I need something like that, because I'm not a big reader. I like getting right to the point, so I try to do the book that way, and I'm happy that it came off that way, because some of the feedback was that they're able to get through the book in a very succinct way and see what the processes are. And the codes, when I re-looked at all the codes that I put in there for everybody, there's some, going back to past life regression codes and getting to your higher self. Just a lot of a lot of codes that are not just abundance,
and we had a show about it. So if you need more information, you don't know exactly what we're talking about, you can catch our show that we did day before yesterday. Is that right? Yeah. And we had a special announcement on it that we did for live. So if you want to go back and just kind of watch that, so you can get caught up about what his book is about, then you can find it there.
This is my favorite. Look at that picture, how beautiful it is.
Thanks.
You did a good job, baby.
Thanks.
This is Lisa's book, and this was about her journey as where she was as a.
You don't have to make it big like that.
Yeah, as where she was as a Catholic and the whole thing, and then her journey moving forward and trying to get me to pay attention to this. In the beginning, I thought it was a little nutty. And then how we came along as a family and stuck together through this journey, and then really all the gifts that Lisa's been given through it. But what a great, it really is a great story.
Thanks,
so
honey.
Definitely something you want to read, especially if you're starting to go through it and you want to see how she did it with us and bringing us and our daughters along for the ride, and how she did it. It's really really good. So I would get it.
Yeah, thank you. It was definitely a Katie. I think Katie's coming back on. Let's see. I'm gonna add.
Of course, now my camera is going to be weird again.
Oh, yeah, we hear you.
We hear you though.
You hear it?
Progress, guy.
You can see it there and then not there. I don't know what's going on. We're having all kinds of technical issues over here.
Stephanie said when you guys popped off, she's like, I know he was just getting ready to say something really good. I was like, I know. Hopefully you guys can figure it out and go back on. But
the internet gremlins are really bad after midnight.
That's there they are.
There you go.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what's going on over here, but I think the frequency got a little too high.
Yeah, it cut us off when I was explaining that we all can do this.
Yeah. I was literally about to say everybody can do this.
Yeah. And it actually so I was saying, put your hands over a track, and you know what? Some people they can't go sit down in a quiet, dark room and meditate, but you could go out and put your hands over an animal track and then you're doing something, right? Now quiet your mind. But you have something a little bit to focus on because you're imagining, right? You're trying to tap into that, what your track you're hovering over and that animal, and just another one of the 1,000 ways to be present and to be a mindful individual.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
easiest and best way to do that is in nature. And we hear everybody, all the YouTubers and all the social media people, nature, 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 and God, same thing. You know, get in nature, nature. It's just like we're not too late. You know, nobody's listening. It's not too late to develop a relationship.
Oh. All right,
All
you
right,
guys.
yeah.
Well, I'm thinking on that note, we're probably going to have to end it.
With yourself and using
Oh,
nature to
there
do
you go.
that.
You froze,
We get
and then
ya.
you guys popped
Yeah.
back in. We were just saying, oh no, it's not working again. We're probably going to have to wrap it up, but we're definitely going to need to have you come back because we got into some of the Sasquatch stuff, which was super cool and interesting. And so, of course, everybody wants to hear about that stuff, but we didn't get to get into any of the really cool animal stories and things like that. So would you be interested in coming back and doing another show with us so we can hit that side?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could literally, we'll be hanging
Darn it. Okay.
out in Oklahoma for the next
we'll be
week
here
or
for
two with nothing to do.
yeah.
All
We
right.
should set something up because this seems like just the tip of the iceberg.
I'll work on my
with
internet
stories
connection.
going, yeah, we want to find out more about what's going on.
Look at the time we're ending too, 11:11.
I'll try to get Starlink between now and then.
Yeah.
But all right.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
everyone.
love you guys. Excited to talk about nature.
Yes,
Yes.
and I can't wait to have you back on again, and we'll do it again while you're still there. I'll get with Katie and do that, but you two don't hang up or don't go away because I've got a whole thing to go over.
Good night, Victor. Good night, everybody.
But everybody else,
thank you so much
for joining us, and we will see you guys again soon.
Yes. Good night.
Love you guys.